The first thing Ryan noticed as he stepped into Emma's apartment was how calm everything seemed. Sunlight streamed through the wide windows, catching the faint dust particles in the air and painting golden lines across the living room floor. The apartment had always been welcoming, cozy but modern, a place that reflected Emma's meticulous personality. And yet, today, there was an undercurrent of tension that Ryan couldn't quite place. He had been dating Emma for almost a year now, and in that time, he had come to understand her routines, her habits, and even her peculiar quirks. But he had also learned one unshakable truth. Emma's older brother, Jake, had an unsettling ability to read situations and people better than anyone he had ever met. It wasn't that Jake was cruel. He just had a way of spotting weaknesses and secrets, a knack for knowing things before they were meant to be known. And Ryan had one such secret: his fascination with crossdressing. It wasn't something Ryan shared casually. Not with friends, not with coworkers, and certainly not with family. The thrill of transformation, the feeling of slipping into a different persona, was his alone. It was a delicate balance, a hidden part of himself that he indulged in privately, the only time he felt truly free to explore who he was beneath the layers of everyday life. And now, he was about to face a challenge he had never anticipated. Emma greeted him with her usual warmth, a smile that lit up her face and softened the tight knot of anxiety in his chest. "Hey," she said, giving him a quick hug. "I hope your day wasn't too crazy." Ryan returned the hug, feeling a flicker of guilt. He had been distracted all morning, thinking about the small box tucked in his bag, the makeup kit he had ordered in secret, and the idea that tonight might not go as planned. Emma's brother, Jake, was visiting for the evening, and Ryan's curiosity and fear was building with every step he took toward the living room. Jake appeared moments later, tall and composed, with that familiar smirk that made Ryan's stomach twist. "So, this is the infamous Ryan," Jake said, shaking his hand firmly. "Emma hasn't stopped talking about you. I hope you're ready for a night you won't forget." Ryan forced a laugh, though the way Jake's gaze lingered made him feel like he was under a microscope. There was something in the air, an unspoken tension that hinted at mischief, or perhaps a challenge he hadn't agreed to. He glanced at Emma, who shrugged subtly, a hint of apology in her eyes. As they settled in, Ryan felt the familiar pull of anxiety mixed with excitement. Being around Jake had always been nerve-wracking, but tonight carried an edge he hadn't experienced before. He wondered if Jake had sensed something about him, something Ryan had never voiced. The thought made his heart race, and he instinctively adjusted his shirt, trying to cover the slight tremor in his hands. "Emma mentioned you like makeup," Jake said casually, breaking the silence. The comment was harmless enough on the surface, but the way he said it, almost teasingly, sent a jolt through Ryan. He smiled nervously, unsure of what to say. Emma, ever the peacemaker, laughed softly. "Oh, Ryan just dabbles a bit. It's nothing serious." Jake's smirk widened. "Dabbles, huh? Well, I think it's time we had a little fun." Ryan's stomach dropped. Fun, in Jake's vocabulary, often meant challenges, dares, and tests of composure. And Ryan knew, deep down, that this evening might push him further than he had ever gone before. The living room felt smaller suddenly, the air heavier, charged with the anticipation of something unspoken. Ryan glanced around at the neatly arranged furniture, the bright cushions, the walls adorned with framed photographs of Emma growing up. It was a space that felt safe, familiar, but with Jake here, it was no longer just a home. It was a stage, and Ryan was about to be the central act. As the evening progressed, casual conversation turned into playful banter, and Ryan found himself laughing, though a part of him remained tense. He noticed the way Jake's eyes would linger, analyzing, assessing, as if he was silently plotting something. And then, without warning, Jake produced a small, sleek makeup kit from his backpack. "Thought we could try something new tonight," Jake said, holding it out with a grin. "Trust me, it'll be memorable." Ryan's throat went dry. The kit was perfect: brushes, palettes, foundation, eyeliner, lipstick. Everything he had ever been curious about, all in one place. But the thought of letting Jake, someone he barely trusted, see him experiment, see him transformed. It sent a shiver down his spine. Emma, sensing his hesitation, gave his hand a reassuring squeeze. "It's just for fun," she whispered. "You don't have to if you don't want to." Ryan nodded, trying to summon confidence he didn't fully feel. But as he stared at the makeup, the possibilities, the danger, the thrill, it called to something deep inside him. The excitement mingled with fear, a cocktail of emotions he had rarely felt so intensely. And in that moment he realized, tonight, he might not just be experimenting for himself. Tonight, he could be trapped in a transformation that tested every boundary he had, forced him to confront not just his desires, but the consequences of revealing them. The stage was set, the players in place. Ryan was about to step into a world of color, brushes, and mirrors, guided by someone who might understand his curiosity or exploit it entirely. And in that delicate balance of trust and challenge, the night promised to be unforgettable. The first brushstroke on his skin felt electric. A mix of fear, excitement, and vulnerability coursed through him. And as the evening began in earnest, Ryan realized he was no longer just himself. He was stepping into a persona crafted with careful hands, each stroke of makeup a step further from the life he had known and deeper into the world Jake had prepared for him. The night had just begun, and nothing would ever be the same. Ryan stared at the makeup kit in Jake's hands, feeling a mixture of fear and exhilaration that made his chest tighten. He had experimented privately before, quiet evenings alone, dimly lit mirrors, soft brushes against his skin. But this was different. This was public, or at least semi-public. Emma was here, smiling supportively, but her presence didn't erase the vulnerability he felt. Jake's grin widened. "Come on, Ryan. Don't just stare at it. Let's see what you're capable of." Ryan hesitated, biting his lip. The thought of submitting to Jake's challenge was both thrilling and terrifying. He felt the weight of curiosity pressing against the edge of caution. Taking a deep breath, he nodded. "Okay, let's do this." Jake handed him a brush, the bristles soft against Ryan's fingers. "Start slow," he said. "Foundation first. Even strokes. Trust me." As Ryan began applying the foundation, he became acutely aware of every sensation, the smooth glide of the brush, the cool texture of the cream against his skin, the subtle change in the reflection staring back at him. With each stroke, he felt more exposed, yet oddly empowered. His features softened, his face transforming into something delicate and unfamiliar, yet undeniably his own. Emma watched silently, offering quiet encouragement. "You're doing great," she murmured. Her voice was soothing, yet it reminded him that this moment was not just about fun. It was about trust, intimacy, and revealing a hidden side of himself. Jake leaned closer, inspecting Ryan's progress. "Not bad," he said. "Now, let's move on to the eyes. Eyeliner first." Ryan's hand shook slightly as he lifted the pencil to his eyelid. He had never attempted eyeliner in front of anyone, and the thought of messing it up made his heart race. With careful precision, he drew a line, then another, slowly shaping his eyes into something more expressive, more feminine. The mirror reflected a version of himself that was simultaneously thrilling and alien. "Look at that," Jake said, impressed. "You're natural." Ryan felt a flush of embarrassment, but also a strange surge of pride. The transformation was working, not just physically, but emotionally. Each brushstroke peeled away layers of his usual self, revealing someone vulnerable, beautiful, and entirely new. Next came the lipstick. Jake handed him a shade of soft pink, and Ryan hesitated. The color was bold, vibrant, and impossible to ignore. He applied it carefully, feeling the brush glide across his lips. The sensation was electric, sending shivers down his spine. He barely recognized the reflection staring back at him, yet he couldn't deny the thrill of it. Emma's eyes sparkled. "You look amazing," she said softly. Her approval, gentle and sincere, made Ryan's heart swell and simultaneously tighten with anxiety. Jake clapped his hands together. "Now the final touch, the wig." Ryan's breath caught. He had never worn a wig before, and the thought of completing the transformation pushed him to the edge of his comfort zone. As Jake adjusted the wig on his head, Ryan felt the unfamiliar weight settle against his scalp. His hair framed his face perfectly, softening his jawline and highlighting his eyes. He barely recognized himself, and yet there was an undeniable sense of exhilaration in this new identity. The room seemed to shrink around him. Every glance from Jake, every approving nod from Emma, made Ryan's pulse quicken. He was aware of his body in ways he hadn't been before. The curve of his waist, the sway of his hips, the way his chest felt under the subtle padding Jake had added. Each movement reminded him of his dual identity, the Ryan everyone knew, and this new persona that felt intoxicatingly real. As the transformation continued, Ryan's internal struggle intensified. Part of him was elated, reveling in the thrill of stepping outside his usual boundaries. Another part was terrified, afraid of being judged, exposed, or humiliated. The duality of fear and excitement created a tension that pulsed through his veins, making every brushstroke feel both dangerous and liberating. Jake, sensing the intensity, smirked. You know, Ryan, most guys wouldn't dare go this far. But you're different. You embrace it, even if you're scared. Ryan swallowed hard. He couldn't deny the truth in Jake's words. Scared or not, he was embracing this. He was stepping fully into a persona that was hidden from the world, exploring the thrill and vulnerability of crossdressing under someone else's watchful eye. Emma reached out, adjusting a strand of the wig. You're beautiful, she said softly. Her touch was gentle, reassuring, and Ryan felt a warmth spread through him. He realized that this moment wasn't just about Jake's challenge. It was about trust, intimacy, and self-discovery. The suspense of the situation intensified as Jake pulled out a pair of high heels. Ready for the final step? He asked. Ryan's stomach twisted. He had worn heels in private, but the thought of walking in them while fully transformed, with Jake observing, made him nervous. He nodded, and Jake helped him slip into the shoes. The unfamiliar height shifted his balance, making each step feel precarious yet empowering. As Ryan adjusted to the heels, he caught his reflection in the mirror. The person staring back at him was beautiful, confident, and yet deeply vulnerable. His pulse raced, a mixture of fear and exhilaration coursing through him. He realized he was no longer just experimenting. He was performing, navigating the delicate line between excitement and danger. Suddenly, a knock at the door made him freeze. Emma's eyes widened. That must be. I don't know who, she said, uncertainty in her voice. Jake's grin widened. Perfect timing, he said. Now, let's see if you can keep your composure. Ryan's heart pounded as he approached the door, each step in heels making him acutely aware of his transformed body. The suspense was almost unbearable. He was no longer just Ryan. He was this new persona, under scrutiny, navigating a challenge that tested every boundary of trust, courage, and identity. As the door opened, the tension reached its peak. Ryan realized that tonight wasn't just about makeup, wigs, and heels. It was about embracing a side of himself he had hidden, trusting those around him, and facing the thrill and terror of being truly seen. And in that moment, Ryan knew that everything was about to change. The knock at the door had sent Ryan's heart racing, and now he stood frozen, high heels tapping nervously against the floor. His reflection in the hallway mirror caught his eye, and for a brief second, he didn't recognize the person staring back. A girl, poised yet trembling, the product of Jake's relentless challenge. Emma whispered, "It's probably just a neighbor, stay calm." But Ryan could barely breathe. Every fiber of his body screamed in both excitement and panic. His makeup was flawless, the wig perfectly in place, and yet, the vulnerability gnawed at him. Jake's smirk was both reassuring and teasing. Go on. Open it. Let's see how well you handle a real test. Taking a deep breath, Ryan turned the handle. Outside stood the neighbor's teenage daughter, curious and smiling. Hey, Emma. Thought I'd drop by, she said cheerfully. Ryan froze. He was caught between panic and the thrill of being fully exposed. One misstep, and his secret could unravel. But as he forced a small smile and said, "Hi, come in," a strange sensation surged through him, pride mixed with fear, vulnerability mixed with exhilaration. Emma guided the visitor into the living room, subtly keeping Ryan in view but leaving him alone with attention. Every step he took in heels reminded him of the precarious line he was walking. He felt the weight of observation, of judgment, of expectation pressing down on him. As conversation flowed, Ryan's inner turmoil escalated. He was acutely aware of every glance, every movement, every subtle gesture that could give away his secret. He laughed at the neighbors' jokes, adjusting his posture to appear natural. But inside, his heart raced with the fear of being discovered. Jake leaned against the wall, a silent observer, occasionally whispering instructions. "Chin up, smile more, now look natural." His guidance was both comforting and torturous. Ryan felt like he was performing on a stage, each motion scrutinized, every expression calculated. Suddenly, the visitor mentioned an upcoming social event. "Are you going to the party this weekend?" she asked. Ryan's mind spun. The thought of attending an event fully dressed like this, with people who didn't know his secret, was terrifying. But the adrenaline coursing through him made the idea almost irresistible. Jake leaned in, his whisper sharp in Ryan's ear. "Think you can pull it off? Imagine showing up, everyone seeing you like this." Ryan's pulse quickened. He realized the stakes had escalated far beyond a simple makeup challenge. This was about identity, trust, and courage. He was testing the boundaries of self-expression under intense scrutiny. A sudden bump against the table caused Ryan to stumble slightly, the high heels making balance precarious. His heart skipped. The neighbor looked over, puzzled, and Ryan quickly recovered, forcing a laugh. "Clumsy me," he said, his voice slightly higher than usual, betraying a hint of nervousness. Emma's brother Jake whispered, "Relax, you're doing fine." His words were grounding, but Ryan could feel the tension in his muscles, the adrenaline in his veins. Every second was a test of composure, of maintaining this fragile dual identity in front of others. Then, the unexpected happened. A text message buzzed loudly from Ryan's phone on the table. He glanced down. Emma's name flashed on the screen. Panic surged. She wasn't supposed to be back for another hour. The thought of her walking in now, catching him in this full transformation, made him freeze. Jake noticed instantly. "Play it cool," he murmured. "You can do this." Ryan's hands trembled slightly as he slid the phone away, heart pounding. He could feel the sweat forming at his hairline under the wig, the blush on his cheeks, real and makeup enhanced, making him feel painfully exposed. The visitor leaned in, noticing something. "You look different today. Did you do something with your hair?" she asked innocently. Ryan's pulse spiked. One wrong word, one hesitation, and the facade could crumble. Yeah, he stammered, trying to sound casual. "Just experimenting." The neighbor smiled, seemingly satisfied, but Ryan knew the next moment could bring disaster. Every movement, every word, every glance now held weight. He was walking a razor's edge between confidence and exposure. Suddenly, a crash from the kitchen made them all jump. Ryan's heart leapt into his throat. Jake rushed to the sound, leaving Ryan momentarily alone. The neighbor tilted her head. "Do you live alone?" she asked. Ryan froze. The lie, the pretense, hung in the air. Yeah, mostly," he said, trying to sound natural. The tension in his chest was unbearable. Every beat of his heart echoed in his ears. Emma returned unexpectedly. Her footsteps were silent, but deadly. Ryan could see the silhouette in the hallway mirror, moving closer, and a wave of panic and excitement collided inside him. His secret, his transformation, could be revealed in an instant. He adjusted the wig, straightened the heels, and forced a smile. "Hey, Emma." "Just hanging out," he said, trying to sound casual. His voice trembled slightly, betraying the turmoil within. Emma's eyes widened as she took in the scene. Ryan's full transformation, the makeup, the wig, the heels, was undeniable. A gasp escaped her lips, and for a moment, time seemed to stop. The visitor's eyes went wide too. "Wow, you look amazing," she said, unable to hide her astonishment. Ryan felt a mix of relief, pride, and panic. He had navigated the challenge, but the stakes had never been higher. He was seen, fully transformed, fully vulnerable, and yet the thrill of it surged through him like electricity. Jake clapped his hands slowly. "Well done, Ryan. You made it through the first real test." But the tension wasn't over. Emma stepped closer, her gaze intense. Ryan knew she had questions, doubts, and perhaps judgments waiting. The room was charged with uncertainty, anticipation, and suspense. In that charged moment, Ryan realized something crucial. He had crossed a line, entered a new territory of identity, trust, and exposure. Every heartbeat was a reminder that his secret life had collided with the real world, and there was no turning back. He was no longer just experimenting. He was fully living the transformation, navigating the thrill, vulnerability, and danger that came with it. And with Emma and the neighbor witnessing him, he knew that the next steps would demand courage, honesty, and an acceptance of a side of himself that was exhilarating and terrifying, beyond anything he had imagined. Emma stood frozen in the doorway, her eyes wide as she took in Ryan's fully transformed appearance. The wig, the makeup, the carefully chosen outfit, it was all undeniable. The room was heavy with tension, every heartbeat amplified by the silence. Ryan's mind raced. He felt the rush of adrenaline, the thrill of being exposed, yet the fear of judgment pressed down on him like a weight. His hands fidgeted at his sides, the high heels making it impossible to stand completely still. Jake, leaning casually against the wall, broke the silence with a smirk. "Well, she sees you now. What's next, Ryan?" His teasing tone did nothing to calm the storm inside Ryan's chest. Emma finally spoke, her voice shaky but controlled. "Ryan, what is going on here?" Ryan swallowed hard, trying to force a casual tone. It's just a thing Jake dared me to try. I wanted to see what it felt like." His words hung in the air, fragile and unconvincing. The neighbor, oblivious to the full tension, continued chatting innocently. "You look so different today. I love the style." Her casual compliment only made Ryan's heart race faster. Every word from her was a reminder that his secret was now shared, at least partially, with someone outside his private world. Emma stepped closer, her expression a mix of curiosity, disbelief, and perhaps suspicion. Ryan felt the weight of her gaze on him, scrutinizing every detail, every hesitation. He wanted to explain, to justify, but the words caught in his throat. A sudden noise from the kitchen, a glass clinking against the counter, made Ryan jump. His hands instinctively went to adjust his wig, and he could feel his face flushing. The neighbor glanced over, confused, while Emma's eyes narrowed slightly, noticing the subtle panic in his movements. Jake leaned in, whispering, "Just breathe, you're doing fine." But Ryan knew the moment of truth was approaching. Emma's next words, her next reaction, could change everything. Emma opened her mouth again, as if to demand an explanation, but then paused, studying Ryan carefully. There was a flicker of something in her eyes. Was it amusement? Was it judgment? Was it acceptance? Ryan couldn't tell. The uncertainty made his stomach churn. The neighbor's innocent curiosity continued, oblivious to the emotional storm. "So, is this a new style you're trying out, Emma?" she asked, clearly mistaking Ryan for Emma. Ryan's pulse raced. He looked at Jake, who simply raised an eyebrow, silently urging him to handle the situation. Ryan forced a smile, trying to remain composed, but the tension was unbearable. Emma took a step closer to Ryan, her voice soft but serious. "Ryan, we need to talk. Alone." The neighbor, sensing the seriousness of the moment, excused herself politely. "I'll leave you two to it then." Her departure left the room eerily quiet, the weight of anticipation pressing down on Ryan like a vice. Emma closed the door behind her, turning to face Ryan fully. The room seemed smaller now, the walls closing in as he realized the full gravity of the situation. His secret, his transformation, and his vulnerability were all laid bare. Ryan swallowed hard. I didn't mean for it to go this far, he confessed, his voice trembling slightly. It started as a dare, but
I
I think I'll like it. Emma's expression softened slightly, but the tension in her eyes remained. Ryan, this isn't just a game anymore. You're different now. I need to understand why you're doing this. Before Ryan could respond, a sudden knock at the door startled them both. The neighbor had returned, or perhaps someone else entirely. Ryan froze, the heels under his feet making every second feel like an eternity. Emma glanced at him, her eyes wide with a mix of shock and intrigue. Who could that be? Ryan's heart pounded in his chest. Every option was terrifying. What if it was someone who could expose him? What if this was the end of his secret? What if Emma's perception of him changed forever? The door handle turned slowly, and the room held its breath. Ryan adjusted his wig and straightened his posture, trying to appear calm, but inside, a storm of fear, excitement, and anticipation raged. And then the door creaked open. The screen fades to black.